Love that. Good energy. IT, are we ready? Okay. Good evening. This is Ronald McFadden, and welcome to the 27th of August public board meeting of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners. If you have not done so already, please mute your phone. Anyone who does not mute their phone may be muted by the call moderator or removed from the meeting. Additionally, if you are not a board member or the CEO and her staff, please turn your video off. I will now read a roll call of the board to identify who is on the call. And I believe that we are all present in person, with the exception of Commissioner Rooks, whose birthday is today. So can we give him a birthday shout out? Happy birthday, Commissioner Rooks. But for attendance purposes, please answer by identifying yourself. Vice Chair Roberts. Thank you. Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Ames Messenger present.
Commissioner Coy.
Commissioner Coy present.
Commissioner Esposito.
Commissioner Esposito present.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Commissioner Muhammad.
Mohammed present.
Commissioner Parker. Commissioner Dr. Redding Lallinger.
Reading Lallinger present.
Commissioner Sally.
Sally present.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Slater Harrington present.
I'm present as well. That is 10 present with 2 absent. Is there a motion to reopen the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater Harrington. Is there a second?
Second Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts.
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Commissioner Muhammad.
Yes.
Commissioner Parker. Commissioner Dr. Redding Lallinger.
Yes.
Commissioner Rooks. Commissioner Sally.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
I'm also in favor. That motion passes with 10 in favor and 2 absent. Is there a motion to approve the prior open session summaries? Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Ames Messenger. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts. Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Has he joined us? Commissioner Muhammad.
Yes.
Commissioner Parker.
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Redding Lallinger.
Yes.
Commissioner Sally.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington. I'm also in favor. That motion passes with 10 in favor and 2 absent. Is there a motion to approve the closed session summaries?
So
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
second Esposito.
Thank you, Commissioner Esposito. All in favor, Vice Chair Roberts.
Yes.
Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Commissioner Muhammad.
Yes.
Commissioner Parker.
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Redding Lallinger. Commissioner Sally.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
I'm also in favor. That motion passes with 10 present and 2 absent. We started school yesterday, everyone.
Hey.
So welcome, welcome, welcome. They say that. Where do they say that? If you're from Prince George's County, Carolina Kitchen. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the 24-25 school year. We are so excited about our young people starting school. And as we've mentioned before, the board has been hard at work. Staff has been hard at work to ensure that our young people are in environments that are safe, where they can thrive, and where they can continue to grow. And we know that Dr. Santelises is going to give us some information tonight on where our young people are moving and the work of staff, city school staff, all of our stakeholders in ensuring that our young people are whole. That's why we do what we do every single day. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Whether you're a staff member, a teacher, a parent, no matter what stake you hold in our city, we are excited about our young people being in school, and we want to make sure that we maintain that momentum. So just beyond the first day, it's great. We want our students in school every day. And it's important that we keep them inspired and motivated to achieve at high levels. Can we all make that agreement today?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you so much. And so for many of our students and staff, yesterday was the first day of classes. And to kick off this amazing school year, several of our commissioners visited schools to show their support. We're going to look at a brief presentation with a few images of our commissioners who visited schools yesterday. Might see yourselves. So we're excited about the first day and about school starting and all of the possibilities that exist for each of our young people. And so to our commissioners, thank you. We were going to make some pop-up visits yesterday too. Maybe your school was one of them that we were thinking about just showing up to. But you know, folks were busy yesterday. And so we appreciate all of the school leaders that opened their spaces, made them very hospitable, to our ILEDs that helped to make sure that that happened. Thank you all very much. And let's keep that momentum going. Lastly, but certainly not least, is former Commissioner Vernon Reed. Are you with us?
Yeah, the old guy's here.
If you're here, can we have you on camera, Vernon?
I think I am.
There
I
you
see.
go. There you go. Hey, Vernon. Can we all give Vernon Reed a round of applause, please?
Sure you want to do that?
It was vitally important, and Vernon knows how important it was for him to be with us this evening. Vernon has finished his time as a board member, as a school board member, and we actually joined the board around the same time. I was slightly before that. I think then followed the vice chair. But Vernon Reed is committed to the children of this city. He is committed to ensuring that all of our students and our children are well. And all of his questions generally, all of his pushes, all of his reasons for being on the board were focused and centered around children. As a graduate of Forest Park High School, he is city bred through and through. And he desires that every child in this city is able to achieve at high levels, but they also have a positive life trajectories. And so, Vernon, on behalf of the board, I want to say thank you for the service that you have committed to the city of Baltimore by being a volunteer on this school board, on this governing body. You did not have to retire from your job. and decide that you were going to serve to continue fighting for our children each and every day. And so on behalf of the board, I just want to say thank you. You didn't always do things that felt good. You didn't always say things that felt good, but you always said things that were true and things that we needed to hear to push us to be better and to push us to make sure that we were improving outcomes for each of our children. The key expertise that you provided during your time on the audit and the operations committee helped the entire board make sound decisions regarding the district's budget and the district goals. We cannot thank you enough, Vernon, for the service that you provided to Baltimore City and to Baltimore City Public Schools. Can you join me together in giving a rousing round of applause to Vernon Reed for his service to Baltimore City Public Schools?
Thank you.
And so
I
Vernon,
know it was a pain in the ass for some people,
so
but
Vernon.
Yeah.
So they're not, there we go. So Vernon, we lost sound for a bit, but certainly we want to give you an opportunity to just share with us before I turn it over to some commissioners who may have some words for you.
are you sure? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
We can hear you loudly and clearly.
Okay, I was truly honored to have the privilege to serve as commissioner. My 6 years on the board were both exciting and frustrating. I was happy to be part of a myriad of policy initiatives, productive use of COVID funds. Did a great job with that, Sonia. Improvements in infrastructure and more efficient and effective transportation initiatives. They were all tremendous. But conversely, I'm still troubled with the absenteeism rate. Most recent was 54%. Only 8% passing Algebra 1. I learned a long time ago, I had a math minor, but I wasn't good at it. But I learned a long time ago that Algebra 1 was probably the best indicator of a person going to college, of all the courses taken. And Algebra 2 was the best indicator of finishing college. So hopefully we can get those numbers up. Also, I'm worried about the graduation. It hovers around 70%, which is low for almost all of the urban school districts. And the abysmal income levels of the CTE graduates. So hopefully we can get these CTE graduates nice internships wherein they could make a nice living wage. And we can all do more for equity, physical safety, healthy and social climate, accountability, and teamwork. Because all of us can do this together as a team. Provide kids with opportunity for exposure, rigorous challenges, and intellectual growth and academic success. Because it's not about the adults, it's about the kids. That means teachers, administrators, board members, community members, clergy, and also the philanthropic community. All of us can help. I learned this a long time ago when I was a kid, which is before most of you guys were born. John Kennedy said, children are our most valuable resource and best help for the future. He said that over 65 years ago, and it's still important now. Nothing's more important than the kids of Baltimore City. And hopefully all of us can do what we can, as much as we can, to help those kids. Thanks for taking my rant. Thank you.
Thank you, Vernon. I want to, you're going to be missed, Vernon. I'm going to turn it over to board members, board colleagues, if you have any words for Commissioner Reed. I see Commissioner Kenyatta Bay first.
Well, I guess, Vernon, I just wanted to say one thing. You've always been my mentor. I mean, even though you're younger than me. Well, we about the same age, right?
You got some more money to bet again?
Let's
Wanna
not
bet
do
again?
that
Okay,
again.
all
Let's not
right.
do that again. Let's not do that
Okay,
again.
let's not do that again. You always lose, but you want to bet
But,
again,
no,
we can.
Okay, but one thing is that, no, you have your attention to detail. You're caring for the village, the overall village is something that inspires me, that moves me, and you're going to always get calls from me as we figure out the road to travel. You know, so thank you so much for what you've given to us, given to the kids, given to Baltimore City, given to the school system, but given to this family we call a board, because it's that thought process that you implant in us that will make us stronger, to help us make better decisions, and it'll move everybody forward. Thank you, Vernon.
Any other colleagues? Commissioner Slater Harrington?
Surprised the vice chair didn't beat me to this. I am so grateful to have had the opportunity to serve alongside of you. You are always so self-deprecating, even though you would say, I don't know what I'm talking about, and then really share great wisdom and brought needed levity when in tough moments. I share with you the pride and the accomplishments and the frustrations with the challenges, the ongoing challenges. I am not saying goodbye because I expect to hear from you, to still glean from your wisdom and sage advice. And I just want to say thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Commissioner Sally?
So Vernon, not always the one with like a lot of sappy words, but I owe a debt of gratitude for your mentorship and helping me ground myself in this work and ground myself in the opportunity to create great outcomes for kids. I learned a lot from you over the first couple of years I've been on this board, and continue to look at you as a source of inspiration and guidance as I continue to do this work. It's been a pleasure to serve with you, and I really appreciate all you've done to help me think about what's possible for kids beyond just what I know and just what I've experienced. So thank you so much, Vernon, for everything.
Commissioner Coy?
Yeah, Commissioner Reed, just want to say thank you. And I don't know if you remember this, but I remember prior to me being on the board, I came and gave testimony. This would have been years ago now. And you asked questions, and I appreciated that. I appreciate that engagement that you've always shown, and just how you have inquired after the truth and the insights needed to be governing the school system. So thank you for that example. And I appreciated during the time that we got to serve together on the board, the conversations and the way that you always brought yourself to the work.
Thank you. Commissioner Muhammad?
Commissioner, respect for what you poured in to us as a group, that the idea of accountability still lives. And I just want you to know that the high expectations that you set for us to have, as we must take our children before our own emotions. We must follow the data before what we believe to be. And we must talk to our leaders as much as we talk to our parents. That will continue to guide the work that I do here. And I want to thank you for being an excellent representation of what it is to be a commissioner. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Santelises.
Commissioner Reed, thank you so much just for all of your work. The fact that you, like your colleagues, are unpaid, but you give and gave countless hours to the betterment of education for our young people in Baltimore City. I think you are now in the ranks of, if not the most well-known and widely respected Forest Park alum, at least for this year. You definitely rank in the top of that. I think you are always proud of being able to represent the potential of the young people in Baltimore City. And I wanted to say a special thank you for your early work in the area of finance. When you first came to the board, I remember that early conversation and lunch we had when we needed to identify a chief financial officer before Chief Doherty came on board, and really do appreciate in particular just your early work in making sure that financially as a district we had the infrastructure that we needed in place to be able to be frankly worthy of the Kerwin funding and other funding that came after that. So thank you for that, and thanks for your service.
Vice Chair Roberts.
I was trying not to say anything because I'm getting so teary-eyed over here. Like, it was just such an honor and a privilege to serve alongside you. Vernon Reed, they don't make them like you anymore. They stopped making them like you a long time ago. My favorite school visit partner, my favorite portfolio review partner, my favorite seatmate. I've handed you off to Commissioner Sally. We're gonna miss you, but you can't get rid of us. So I hope you enjoy your Tuesdays and your Tuesday evenings and your Tuesday mornings back from op and general meetings. But thank you for your service.
Whereas Vernon Reed served as a member of the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners from 2018 to 2024, and whereas Vernon Reed served as chair of the Audit Committee, as well as a member of the Operations Committee and the CEO/BEO Evaluation Subcommittee, and whereas Vernon Reed consistently demonstrated a spirit of thoughtful collaboration with his colleagues, while also acting as an effective advocate for financial responsibility, the advancement of student academic achievement, and student wholeness. And whereas Vernon Reed has performed outstanding service to the students and staff and families of Baltimore City Public Schools and the City of Baltimore, now therefore, the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners does hereby proclaim our thanks and best wishes to Vernon Reed in grateful recognition of his dedicated service to public education in Baltimore City, acknowledged on this 27th day of August, 2024. Certificate of recognition. On behalf of the people of Baltimore, I am pleased to present this certificate to Vernon A. Reed, Jr. in recognition of serving 2 terms on the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners as the Audit Committee Chair and a member of the Operations Committee. You ought to be commended for your commitment to excellence in improving the lives of our residents. On behalf of the people of Baltimore, I offer my sincere thanks for your dedication and wish you many more years of success. Congratulations, Mayor Brandon M. Scott. Vernon, we appreciate you. We have a gift that we're going to send to you. Thank you so much for your service and thank you for joining us tonight. Can we give?
Can
I saw. Go ahead, Vernon.
Can I have one request?
Maybe.
This request is for the commissioners and I guess staff. Let's try to think of ways we can have a cell phone policy. I know it's tough. Parents and kids don't want this to happen, but is there a way that kids could not have a cell phone? They could have it before class, after class, but not in class and at classroom activity, in school activities, because that would do a lot to help the teachers, would do a lot to give them the whole 40 minutes to learn. I know it's a lot of pushback, but a cell phone policy where they just don't have the phone while they're learning. They can have before class, after class, in the halls, but not when they're in the classroom. That's my request.
Thank you for that request, Vernon. And let's all give him one rousing applause again. Thank you, Vernon Reed.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. The board acknowledges a donation of $5,000 from the Towson University Foundation, Inc. to Digital Harbor High School to support multilingual family engagement efforts. The board acknowledges a donation of $7,000 from the Baltimore Orioles to Harlem Park Elementary Middle School for teacher gift cards to use at the Lakeshore Learning Store. Is there a motion to approve the PEP and quasi-judicial matters?
So moved, Kenyatta Bay.
Thank you, Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Is there a second?
Second, Robert.
Thank you, Vice Chair. All in favor? Vice Chair Roberts. Commissioner Ames Messenger.
Yes.
Commissioner Coy.
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito.
Yes.
Commissioner Kenyatta Bay.
Yes.
Commissioner Muhammad.
Yes.
Commissioner Parker.
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Redding Lowlinger.
Yes.
Commissioner Sally.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Harrington.
Yes.
I'm also in favor. That motion passes unanimously with the members who are present. I'll now turn it over to Dr. Santelises for her CEO comments.
Great. Thank you, Board Chair. It is great to be with everyone tonight. And since the Board Chair has already gotten us excited for the first day of school, I will just follow with a huge thank you. A thank you to everyone who actually put off vacations, who came back early from vacations to make sure that buildings were ready, that teachers had development and support. We even had central staff who were out making sure that last minute appointments of teachers had classrooms that would actually greet young people being decorated, folks who decorated classrooms who weren't their own. And I think it's important at this time of year to just shine a light on the folks who, when many in the public think, oh, summer vacation, those folks may not work in the summer. I want you to know that I see you. And I thank you for all that you have done and continue to do to make sure that our schools were ready this week. So thank you, everybody. I also want to just say that yesterday it was great to be with Mayor Scott on the first day of school. This is our second year in a row when the mayor and I got to join one of our schools that we recognize for the Mayor's Most Improved in Attendance Award. This year we were greeted with African dance, drums, a nationally recognized and award-winning choir at the Connections Academy. And it was wonderful to be there. Mayor Scott and I were able to greet Principal Brooks and the staff there, students on winning. And they succeeded as a school in contributing to our district-wide decrease of 5% in chronic absenteeism. This school, Connections, reduced their chronic absentee rate by 22 percentage points from the previous year. So congratulations to Connections, and collectively as a district, we should all feel good, even though we know we have a ways to go, that means that 30,000 students improved their attendance and 4,000 fewer students were chronically absent last year compared to 2023. We will continue our attendance campaign as the mayor and I announced yesterday. We won't stop until every student is in class every day, on time, and ready to learn. So congratulations. Thank you, teachers, re-engagement staff. We had community school coordinators, attendance monitors. Folks, this is what it looks like when we have a full team and frankly, full city effort. Faith leaders were part of this movement, community-based organizations. This was a whole Baltimore City effort, and we are continuing it this year. So thank you, everybody. I also want to thank Human Capital, who worked many, many long hours and were able to hire more than 750 new teachers by the first day of school. Nicely done. Nicely done, team. And the good news is that this includes over 100 international teachers, many recruited from Africa and Latin America, specializing in STEM subjects, special education, and English as a second language. So our new hires also include 90 new Teach for America Corps members and more than 40 City Teaching Alliance residents who are training to become teachers of record for school year 25-26. Again, big congratulations to Human Capital Chief Emily Nielsen and the entire team for a job well done, and also a shout out to the schools team and school leaders who I know worked to make sure that those hires were identified and placed as many as possible by first day of school. Congratulations, everyone. Now, this morning, the Maryland State Department of Education released the literacy and math results for last year's Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program, or as those of us school people like to call it, MCAP. I'm pleased to report, as published in today's Baltimore Banner, city schools year-to-year percentage increases in both ELA and math were some of the highest in the state. City schools math scores represented an overall percentage increase of 15.91% versus a 3.4 percentage increase statewide. And Baltimore City's literacy scores, and I want to hone in on this because this is a long time focused effort across the district for a number of years, and we saw a 6.54 percentage increase over 2023 versus a 1.04 percentage increase statewide. Now, what this means is a couple of things. First, I do want to say we know we still have a long way to go. We know, again, as I think we heard from Commissioner Reed or former Commissioner Reed, that we won't rest until every young person in every zip code, in every subcategory can hold two things simultaneously. You can continue to hold high-level goals for each and every young person. Also simultaneously hold that the hard work of team members, of teachers in schools, of principal leaders, of central office leaders, curriculum folks, schools office, even quite frankly, some of the folks that make sure the place they need to be, that we actually are moving in the right direction. This is not wave a magic wand work. This is not work that the faint of heart who want to turn around an entire district that frankly took decades to be where it is now, right, is going to turn around. But what we are seeing is that over the long haul, the concentrated work, teachers who came out this summer to develop themselves in mathematics and literacy instruction, that we collectively are moving in the right direction. And as I told school leaders, I think it was a week ago, was it a week, 2 weeks ago now? Thank you, 2 weeks ago, when we met, that what this indicates is we know what the high leverage work is. We see those areas of effort and the work we've put in can pay off. And this gives us the ability to dig deeper, to move faster, and to hit those areas that we know need greater attention. So I am pleased that in those places, in those schools where we see that focused attention, that commitment, we are seeing substantial, consistent growth. One example of that is in our middle grades literacy. So if you take a look at the second slide, if you look at percentage improvement from 2016 to 2024, when you compare Baltimore City to the state, we have significantly closed the gap. This is rate of growth. This is not level proficiency. So I want to be clear. But in terms of growth for our middle grade students in literacy, we are seeing outsized growth. I have had people call from other states who have said, is this real? 3-4% per year over year in middle grades, in one of the hardest grades to actually raise achievement. Baltimore City is showing progress. And what this signals, again, is not that we are exactly where we want to be, but it does mean that our trajectory, our movement, and the direction is where we are going, which is towards increased levels of achievement. So I want to take this time as Chief Jones and Chief Dabrowski come forward. I want to take this opportunity to thank the entire city schools team. This is not CEO work. This is ground level, visiting schools, reworking the data. I remember sitting with the team at Medfield Heights who showed me how they regularly regroup students to make sure they're hitting every young person where they are and moving them. So yes, we have a long way to go, but we are on a trajectory of growth that is outpacing the state, which frankly is where it needs to be if we are going to catch all of our young people up. So congratulations to the district. And as I said to school leaders last week, congratulations. Let's roll up our sleeves because we have more work to do. And I will turn it over to you, Chief Jones. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Santelises, and good evening, everyone. My name is Teresa Jones, and I serve the district as the Chief Achievement and Accountability Officer. And I'll turn it over to my colleagues to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Good evening. I'm Joan Dabrowski. I'm the Chief Academic Officer.
Good evening, Stacy Toze, Chief of Schools.
So before we begin, I'd just like to do just a really brief overview of what this is when we talk about the MCAP. MCAP stands for the Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program, and it serves as the annual state assessment that provides information to families, educators, and the public on the academic progress that students are making towards the state's content standards. When we take a look at this particular release, we do have results here to share with you regarding performance in English language arts, mathematics, as well as in the science areas. In terms of how proficiency is determined, there are 4 performance levels that represent the levels of proficiency. Levels 3 and 4 for proficient learner and distinguished learner performance is what is captured when we report the proficiency results this evening. And we also want to note that the state's use of the MCAP results also allows the state to comply with the Every Student Succeeds Act requirements around state level of accountability for student performance. These results are being presented this evening, but they will also be incorporated in the reporting that the state will provide through its accountability system report card ratings that are expected to be released in December. To get us started, we'll talk about English language arts. So first, we want to note that we use the term MCAP to really refer to the umbrella of the set of state assessments. In the state of Maryland in 2014-15, Maryland was one of the PARCC states, and so that was to support the introduction of the College Career Readiness Standards that were implemented at the time, and has since transitioned to what we now call the state-developed MCAP assessment. And so what we want to note here is that the results are considered comparable based on how the assessments were designed. And when we take a look at our performance over time, these most recent results represent our highest level of performance since those assessments were introduced. We also want to note that we have continued to see year-over-year improvement under Dr. Santelises' leadership. And we have some specific results to highlight as it relates to specific grades, as well as how our efforts have not only contributed to what you're going to see this evening, but also to what that means for our work going forward. As we present this evening, we will not only present information regarding our performance over time, we'll also take a look at how that compares versus the state. One of the things we wanted to note is that we had over 3 percentage point increases in 3 of our subject areas, that's grades 6, 7, and 10, and that those increases are higher than the state. We'll also note that there were some declines in some content areas, particularly for the state at grades levels 3 and 8, and we also had a decline, but it was less of a decline than the state. So all in, we are seeing how our English language arts improvement efforts are indeed showing up on these assessment results. As we take a look at the trajectory of time, what you'll see here again is that these most recent results, where we are at 27.7% proficiency, indicate that we have outperformed the state by showing a 1.7 point increase versus last year, whereas the state of Maryland posted a 0.5 point increase. And as you'll see by comparison, in 14-15, we were at 16.9%. And so you can see overall that trajectory of improvement over time. And as noted with Dr. Santelises' tenure here, that 14.1% figure represents her first year under leadership as CEO. When we take a look again at the banners analysis of our results, the things that I just want to note here first for ELA is again that we do see that when we take a look across the region, that the areas, the school districts that were highlighted here, you can see Baltimore City is at the top of the list in terms of the percentage change over the course of the last year. So this again gives us just one view of how to take a look at our results over time. Another way that we take a look at our results over time is to take a look at results by grade. And so what you see depicted here are 3 colorful bars, each of the years represented with a different color. 2022 is our blue bar. That middle sort of magenta-ish bar is 2023, and then the green bar is 2024. If you take a look across these last 3 years, you'll see the green bars are the highest relative to those other bars. So when you compare 2021 to 2022 to the 23-24 numbers, you can see that we have an upward trajectory of improvement across each and every tested area within ELA. As I mentioned earlier, or as Dr. Santelises mentioned, about the work we've done in middle grades, one of the things we wanted to highlight here is the performance change of our results from 2016 to 2024. And you can see for each of the tested middle grades, so that's ELA 8, 7, and 6 from top to bottom, you'll notice there that those blue bars, which represent city schools, change in improvement are greater or longer than what you see for the state of Maryland. So that shows us how we are making differences there over that longer period of time. We also took a look at that same time period for each of the tested grades, and you'll see that there's a pattern represented there as well, where you can see that there have been notable increases across all of the tested grades within the English language arts content area. This time, I'll turn it over to our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Dabrowski, to share some insights about our efforts.
Yep. So as I think we take a look at our long rate of improvement, we want to step back and say, what are the things that we're doing that are making a difference? And what we can see is there have been some key investments over the last 8-9 years that we believe are indicators of our success and our achievement. So City Schools has made a very intentional investment in high quality instructional materials across K through 12 in the area of literacy. So we see this in our Wit and Wisdom investments, in our foundations, Hegarty, most recently our high school English, Odell and Springboard. We believe that is a key part of our student success. Additionally, we've placed an emphasis in the elementary grades on foundational literacy skills. We think that that is leading to middle grade students who are ready to engage in deep comprehension work using content-rich materials and engaging with complex texts. And so that long commitment of work is paying off, and we're seeing those results in our middle grades. I also need to acknowledge the deep level of investment around professional learning. We have, in the last 8 years, invested in literacy coaches who work in our schools side by side with our teachers, planning, looking at student data and making refinements around that student data and changing instruction. We also have used a number of fellowship models where we bring teachers together in a professional learning community and really dig into looking at student work, teaching right alongside those teachers, letting them go back and try things out in their classrooms using a continuous improvement mindset. And we see that that work, particularly in the middle grade. So there was a fellowship of approximately 50 teachers across 26 schools in those middle grades that spent a lot of time digging in to literacy, particularly thinking about fluency and other parts of sort of vocabulary and development for our middle grades kids. We think that is part of our reason for why we're seeing such great results in those middle grades. Similarly, we did work in our science of reading space, again, investing in that teacher fellowship experience to dig into that early literacy work. So again, we're going to continue to see these kinds of investments making a difference in those outcomes. So if we go to the next slide, we'll talk about sort of where we go next in light of where we are. As Dr. Santelises said, we are not satisfied with where we are in terms of our achievement levels. We know there is still deep improvement work to do, but we are going to stay the course and have a renewed focus on writing. So again, we have the high quality instructional materials in place. We're very excited. We will now have pre-K joining us with Frog Street materials. We have even more school-based literacy coaches in place for the school year 24-25. We are expanding the work of science of reading professional learning opportunities. And as I mentioned, this emphasis on writing across all grade levels, all content areas, how we help our young people write with meaning and content is another priority for us going forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dabrowski. At this time, we'll transition and share our math results. So when we take a look, so while the story of English language arts versus math is a little different, one of the things that we can note is that we did see increases across all of our grades in mathematics. So those are the tested grades, grades 3 through 8 and Algebra 1. Notably, grades 3 and Algebra 1 saw the greatest level of improvement, and grades 3 through 5 actually showed the highest achievement levels than what we've seen previously. There's a 3-year trend that shows that we are making consistent improvement, perhaps not at the rate that we would like, but we are seeing consistent improvement year over year. And we do have to note that unlike the results in ELA, where you saw that upward trajectory that took us right back into being back in school after the pandemic, we're not quite seeing where our math results have even returned to where we were pre-pandemic levels, let alone achieve the objectives that we have for our schools. So to illustrate that point, this slide here again shows a trend line from 14-15 to our most recent results in 23-24. You'll see the most recent figure of 10.1% for city schools. While that is still lower than our pre-pandemic levels, as you'll see represented on the left, it is a greater increase year over year versus last year than what the state of Maryland experienced, to the tune of 1.4 percentage points versus 0.8. Again, as we take a look at one way to take a look at improvement over time, the percent change view does allow you to see that Baltimore City was at the top of the list as reported by the banner. And again, noting that while those increases are significant and important for us to recognize, we also still acknowledge that we still have a long way to go with our overall proficiency levels, as you saw represented on the prior slide. Again, this idea of, hey, we're seeing consistent improvements over time. Again, you see the 3 years represented in this particular view. And in particular, we look at between our 21-22 and 23-24. So over the course of those 2 years, we do see where those green bars are higher than the blue bars, recognizing that there may be some different levels of change in the by grade results represented here. Another way that we took a look at the results was to compare our results versus the state. This gives you a single year change view between city schools in Maryland. So again, for the all math, you can see that 1.4 again represented here. And then you can see by individual tested grade what the differences are. And again, this just gives you visual representation for the differences where there are some grades that there were increases and city schools also outpaced the increases. And then there are examples here of where the state had a decline and city schools actually had an improvement represented by an increase. One of the things that we note is that Algebra 1 is a little bit of a different animal to the extent that there are students in 2 different grades that typically take the Algebra 1 assessment. Because again, it's tied to which mathematics course they're taking. And so you see here that we've continued to have a focus on giving more and more students access in grade 8. And we've also worked towards improving proficiency, not only for those grade 8 students, but also for our grade 9 students. So you do see there where the green bars are higher over the course of these last few years. The other thing that we'll note there is that when you take a look at students that tested, those 8th grade students that were testing either in Algebra 1 or that took the 8th grade math assessment, there's roughly 1 in 5 of our 8th grade students that are represented in this Algebra 1 test taker number. Dr. Dabrowski.
Thanks, Chief Jones. So when we think about our math improvements, one of the strategies we have taken is to learn from and build off the work that we've done in literacy. And I think that shows up when we think about our commitment to using high quality instructional materials in mathematics. We have been investing in math leads and coaches. We expanded professional learning opportunities, as Dr. Santelises mentioned, back in summer 2023 was the first year that we launched a math institute where we really dug into helping our math teachers around math content. We had great attendance there. And then I think the work that we have had around ensuring that our grade 8 and grade 9 students have both access and success with that Algebra 1 experience. I would also lift up our On Track to Graduate or our OTG work that we see in grade 9 and the investment we're making to really be vigilant around our 9th grade success and how that is also impacting our Algebra 1 results. When we think about next steps for mathematics, we are super excited that last spring the board approved a new set of for math implementation, Reveal Mathematics. We have 32 of our schools who will be in that first phase of implementation starting this fall right now. We have even more school-based leads and coaches in place. When I last checked with our Chief of Human Capital, Chief Nielsen, she reported we have doubled the number of school-based math leads and coaches. So we're very excited about that. We will continue that work in Algebra 1 access and success. We've got some partnerships with tutoring groups to support that very intentional space of Algebra 1 success. And we're also excited about an opportunity for our early career teachers. Again, using that space of building a professional learning community where we can develop and support math content knowledge for our newest educators. We believe will set us up for even more success as we move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Dabrowski. At this time, we'll do a quick overview in terms of our science results. One of the things to note about science is that to comply with the Every Student Succeeds Act, Maryland administers a science assessment once in the elementary grades and once again in the middle grades. That's why we have results represented here for grades 5 and 8. We have a little bit of a mixed story of what's happening within those 2 grades. So first and foremost, when we take a look at grade 5, there were decreases across the board. However, city schools had less of a decrease than the state experienced in this most recent test-taking administration. However, when we take a look at grade 8, we see where city schools had a bit of an increase and the state had a decrease. So again, it's a little bit of a mixed story about what's happening when it comes to science proficiency. This next slide gives you a visual representation of what that means for grade 5 first, and then I'll separately come back and share grade 8. So when we take a look at that change, it is a notable difference between 23 and the 24 results. So you'll see the Maryland dip of 10.6 points and the city schools dip of 4.7 points. I think we had, I think the I think the 8th grade slide was omitted, so I'll just go back and I'll just briefly call out just the key numbers from that slide. So again, when we take a look at our increase went from 8.7% to 9.6%, and the state's decrease went from 26.4 to 24.9. So we'll talk about what we're doing in science.
Yep. So as we take a look at those science results, we know that this is about our adults coming together around science time. And I think the prioritization of time for science instruction, we know that this is not unique to Baltimore City Public Schools. This is a state and a national problem around how science is sometimes pushed to the side when we're trying to plan all of the things for a day. We know that that's particularly something in our elementary middle grades that we're trying to be very intentional around to make sure that our students have consistent access to science instruction using our curriculum. So part of our work for this year is trying to understand what are the challenges and obstacles around science instruction that we need to work through in order to make sure our students first and foremost have access to science instruction. Additionally, we want to use this opportunity of digging into writing as a place to elevate what kind of instruction can we do with our young people around reading and writing like a scientist. And we know that there are very specific ways that we can fold in that work around sentence writing, vocabulary, the things that we're lifting up in ELA can absolutely apply to science, and we will be doing that. So again, building off those successes from literacy and thinking about how we bring that into the science space while also doing an interrogation of our science scheduling and access and making sure our young people can access science. At this point, I want to toss this over to our Chief of Schools, Dr. Stacy Place-Tosay, to talk about how we are thinking about these results collectively as we think about supporting our schools.
Thank you. So as we continue to see improvements in our MCAP results, it's important to highlight our central office supports and that they're evolving to sustain and accelerate these gains. So we've strategically aligned our resources, particularly through the introduction of our school success liaisons, also known as SSLs. And these roles are designed to bridge the gap between central office initiatives and the unique needs of schools. So these positions are they will provide targeted, data-driven support, ensuring that every school receives the specific guidance they need to overcome challenges and to drive student success. Now, although these roles are new, we're confident that it will significantly enhance our ability to meet our district goals as it matures. Also, by fostering collaboration between the school's office and the academic offices, we're ensuring that our schools receive coherent and consistent support. And this alignment is key to making sure that our students meet and exceed our district goals. So as we move forward, we remain committed to refining our approach based on the latest data to ensure continuous improvement across all of our schools. Thank you.
At this time, we will open the floor for questions.
Yeah. So, appreciate it. Question regarding the curriculum. The curriculum we approved, we had an update on how it would be rolled out. Really want to be able to hear about the level of support. What did the support look like for our teachers and our leaders alike to make sure that they were prepared day one to implement the new curriculum?
Yes, thank you for that question. So we were very fortunate to maximize the summertime to both provide orientations for school leaders and to provide multi-day institutes of training for our Reveal teachers. So we'll share in the readiness presentation later that we had I believe over 200 plus teachers being trained throughout the summer. And then for those who were not able to attend the summer pieces during June and early August, we used the back to school week to make sure that they received an orientation. So all of that initial training occurred over the summer. Now, as we enter into this implementation, as Dr. Tosay mentioned, the school success liaisons who support Those schools will also be part of the ongoing support throughout the year. We will continue to work with our math coaches in our schools that are using Reveal to make sure they're getting ongoing training. They meet regularly as coaches to be developed and supported. Additionally, we'll use our systemic professional days that we have across the year for those schools implementing Reveal. They'll have opportunities to come together and continue to refine and get support throughout. So there is a whole arc of learning that will continue across the year. We're also looking to have in place specific support for Reveal schools and a special couple of positions, knowing that we still have most of our schools using Eureka. So we do need to support two things right now this year, and that is a heavy lift. So we've got some added capacity to support those schools using Eureka. To using Reveal while we're still using Eureka in many of our schools.
Appreciate the insight.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. A quick question on the algebra results and efforts generally. You mentioned one of the successes being attributed to encouraging more 8th graders to be prepared for and take algebra. About what percentage of city schools 8th graders currently sit for the algebra exam?
So thank you so much for that question. So when we take a look at this particular administration, that percentage is actually 21%. So it's roughly 1 in 5 of our 8th grade students that are tested with Algebra 1.
And do we have any goals set around what we'd like that number to be?
We have not formally set a goal. We have talked about just overall increasing the number of test takers. And so we don't necessarily see that reflected in this data set. However, we are still seeing improvements in the proficiency rate of those 8th graders that are testing. So it's been actually pretty consistent, particularly over the last 3 years. But if I compare that probably back to like 15, 16 or further, that's where you start to see more of the increase in terms of the access efforts being manifested in these results.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then just one more question. I'm looking for some insight on what might be going on in 2nd and 3rd grade ELA. We see higher DIBELS rates in K and 1 than we do in 2, and then we see a slight decline in the 3rd grade proficiency on MCAP relative to the others. So just curious for thoughts.
It is a great question, and it is one that we are looking at very closely as well. I will say we've been able to do a little bit of disaggregation of the data and are noticing that there are some results in our grades K1 and 2 classrooms where when our teachers are using a very methodical planning approach to small group instruction, very targeted in terms of the planning, using what we call a double dose of foundations. So foundations is the curriculum we use to teach those foundational skills. And we monitor each couple of weeks sort of a progress that they're making on very discrete sort of moments in their development. When they have not hit those benchmarks, there needs to be a reteaching, another dose, if you will. And so when teachers are very skillfully planning exactly which students need which type of double dose, we're actually seeing those students are moving. And so there's a real interest in us bringing that work to scale. And this is, again, when we're in this fellowship, teacher fellowship space where we can study and get close to things, and we look at it with a smaller group of teachers, we're then able to see at that very sort of close level that there are very important teaching moves that I think we need to bring to scale. And that is one that has surfaced in the last couple of weeks as we've been digging into this data. And it is something that we will bring to our teams for consideration.
Thank you for that, Dr. Dabrowski. I think the other consideration is that these assessments are not necessarily testing the same set of skills and content knowledge. So keep in mind, our DIBELS results are really foundational literacy skills. When you get to grade 3, you have a much broader set of standards for what are actually being assessed. So it's one of the things that we need to look more deeply into is what's the relationship between those to the extent that we're not seeing necessarily the same trajectory. But I think that is an important consideration because the grade 3 assessment is much more comprehensive than what a DIBELS assessment would tell you.
Thanks. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense from the 2 to 3 band, but I'm still a little confused by what's happening between 1st and 2nd, where it's DIBELS data in both cases. But thank you.
I'm actually going to come back to you, Commissioner Saley, because I want to follow up to you, Commissioner Redding Wallinger. And I previewed this in full transparency to the team before we came down. Something that is very concerning to me is the K-3 literacy proposal that is being discussed at the state level. That will have major impact to our young boys, especially for this system, where we know 83% of our special education students are African American boys. I'm curious how the system is starting to have thought partnership planning efforts underway for if that actually does go into effect, the impacts of our students, and how we're planning to kind of troubleshoot and meaningfully work around that, not hurting the progress that we see happening.
So appreciate the question. And we have been looking very closely at the details within the proposed policy that the state has put forward around K-3 literacy. What we see in there are several points around teacher development that I think City Schools is well positioned to be able to jump right in and be ready and to do the great work. But you are right to call out the particular concerns of the numbers of students who could be impacted, particularly around this space of grade 3 retention. Now, in the proposed policy, there are particular spaces where there are just causes for why a student might not be retained, because I think that has been one of the points of most concern. And there are provisions around students with IEPs and students who are multilingual learners. So there's some very fine details within that proposed policy that would require a deep level of consideration as far as what it means in terms of how many of our students would be impacted. I think the other pieces are how we use our MTSS approach, which is how we're thinking about interventions earlier on. There would have to be a vigilance on K1 and 2 so that we are not waiting until grade 3 to start to scramble around what are we doing for our students. So there would need to be some laser focus on those earliest grades. There would certainly need to be a very close look at the investments we're making around tutoring and intervention support, after school programming, summer programming. So where we right now have enjoyed the funds from ESSER that have allowed us to do a very wide set of programming and things in the summer, we may need to refine and be very strategic if in fact this policy is voted in, and to think about strategically using resources in service of early literacy. I will say, and I have shared with MSDE, is this is the right stake in the ground in terms of putting third grade literacy sort of out there for us to say we must do something earlier and sooner for our young people. We cannot continue to have young people going on to grade 4, 5, and beyond and not able to read. And so this is a moment for all of us in this work to rally around early literacy in ways that do have some high stakes attached. I do think that, again, we've got some strong momentum in the materials that we use, in the development that we have. I think, again, we're going to have to look at tutoring. I think we're going to have to look at having very clear guidance in our promotion and retention policy about what that means for how we work with our families if after school work is needed or summer work is needed. So there are some of those things that will have implications. There's a lot of still unknown. And I do think there's been a lot of questions raised around the grade 3 MCAP being the gatekeeping assessment. As Chief Jones has just said, it is a broad assessment. It is not just assessing reading. It's a larger set of skills there. So I do think, again, more implementation information is needed. And as the state continues to sort of work this policy through, we will continue to share our concerns and also opportunities, because I will say again, putting the stake in the ground for grade 3 children to be ready to read is the right work for us to be doing.
Thank you for your insight. I would encourage my colleagues to, continue to track that because as we look at the board goals, as we look at MCAP data, and as we're moving forward as a system that will impact us and whatever iteration does move forward, it will impact our system. Commissioner Sally?
Yeah, so my comments are building on just that last point that Commissioner Roberts had, which is, these strategies that the system undertakes represents considerable investments in time, financial, human resources. And so as we move throughout this year, I'm very interested in understanding more of how we can replicate and build upon the things that we know are working in pockets and areas to see these kind of demonstrable gains in reading and overall, and how we apply those learnings where we have gap closures in our work on mathematics. I think those things are really important to understand, like how well our investments are paying off, and something, where my eye is going to be kind of focal point as we move throughout the school year.
Great. Oh, I wasn't sure. You were waiting.
Good evening. Before I jump into kind of my question, which I primed earlier, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the hard work, not only of our teachers, our principals, and district office staff, but of our parents and our community partners who are right there on the front line. I know as a parent, making sure that homework gets done or going back and rechecking why we're not seeing progress in areas. It's time consuming and hard work. And our parents are sometimes fighting their own deficits just to make sure that they are present and able to support our students and their success. And so I wanted to acknowledge the full scope of everyone who contributed to these advancements that we are seeing. I want to take a moment to also acknowledge our board goals that are both aspirational but attainable. And we spoke a little bit about this earlier in terms of the rate of progress towards those goals. We're seeing these incremental advancements, which are something for us to be proud of because we're all toiling to do this work every day. But based on that, I would just like to have a conversation around or a projection around realizing those board goals based on this incremental progress.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that comment as well as the question. Just to provide perspective, in terms of the board's goals, the goals were set to be stretching. Knowing that when we were taking a look backwards, that we weren't necessarily seeing the rate of improvements that we thought would be useful to replicate to create sort of a future goal. So I just want to acknowledge that first and foremost. Having said that, we can certainly take a look at with our most recent level of improvements, where does that put us on a trajectory? When we've taken a look at where we are currently versus what we would have needed to attain to get to those goals, we see that we're slightly behind schedule. So to your point, as much as we are seeing improvement, it's still not at the rate that we need, especially knowing that the goals that were set were stretching goals to begin with. In addition to that, we have the state context, right? So we're seeing, for the most part, the state is modest gains at best and seeing declines in many areas. And so some of this is an opportunity for us to sort of recalibrate. Where are we really relative to our goal setting process, as well as the state's goal setting process and what we've seen in the most recent years. So certainly as we have future goal conversations, we'll certainly bring that back to the board to be able to kind of get a sense of what does that mean. But I also just want to acknowledge it. Like, we know that with the proficiency levels that we have, that we want to be not just have aspirational goals, but we really want to have some stretching goals, and we want to challenge ourselves and our entire community to rally around our young people to be able to help them get to where we know that they can get.
And I think that when I draw upon that, like having that real conversation, some people may not appreciate that I am celebrating the progress, but I also want to be realistic that we have a ways to go, and I want to have open and real conversations around how we get there. So I'm not diminishing what it took to get here. I want to be realistic in what the next steps are to make it to our next goal, and outpacing the state. I'm like, we should be outpacing the world because we can. And I appreciate, Dr. Dabrowski, that some of the conversations that we've enjoyed around scaling and really understanding what's happening that is working on a micro scale. How do we get that out, and how pivotal professional development is in that. So I appreciate the work, especially the work that you're doing. And we've talked about this too, really coordinating with the chief of schools, Dr. Place Tose, to make sure these advancements are happening. So I look forward to, and everyone else can join us for teaching and learning next Tuesday. And every first Tuesday of the month, as we get to dig deep into some of these matters.
Thank you. Commissioner Slater-Herring, I do want to go to your point around parents, because I think it is so important, and families and parents and caregivers need to know how their students are doing. And this data, alongside the DIBELS data, the iReady data, it's all on those student learning plans that we talk about. And so asking those questions as we go into the new school year of how my child is doing on those assessments is a key part of building awareness. Yes, you may be improving, and those are all really important things to hear and understand, but what's the goal you're trying to get to? And our families need and deserve to know that. And again, the student learning plan has been a wonderful place for us to put all of that information in a single document, and to have those parent-teacher conferences to know exactly how your child is doing and where you can help and support them at home.
Thank you all very much for that presentation, and thank you for the rich dialogue this evening around this. We're going to move into public comment in just a few moments, but I am going to just take a brief recess for the board. We've got a pretty long, lengthy evening in front of us, so we're just going to take a quick pause and recess. Going to ask board members to join us in the fourth floor boardroom for a brief recess, and we'll be back momentarily to begin with public comment. Thank you all.
Excuse me, we had a citywide emergency, so we're gonna have to adjourn the meeting for this evening. Once we get more information about what we have, we'll push the information out to you via email. But tonight's meeting is adjourned. Thank you for participating and coming.